Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, by the way, speaking of the French, did you hear Michelle Bachmann's comment at the Republican debate?
Did she talk about the French?
She did. She was lambasting Barack Obama and his involvement in Libya, and she said, America doesn't lead from behind. America is not supposed to lead from behind, but that's what's happening in this case. I mean, in this case, the French are leading the way. What more do you need to know about this? Anyway, there we are. It's going to be that kind of show this week. Welcome to the Welcome to the MWMB Network Podcast. Your source for...
That's all, folks.
Oh, go to hell. Your source for homemade rhetoric. I'm Alex Jeffries, filling the role of crusading liberal, and joining us through the magic of Skype, as always, is Jim the Hammer.
It's just magic.
It's magic. It's absolutely magic. Wow. How do they do that? I mean,
magic.
He's in Minnesota, the other guy's in Vermont, and they talk together. It's unbelievable. How do they do that?
Welcome back, Alex.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be home.
I've had people say, where's your podcast? Where's your podcast? I said, hey, Alex is in Crete, dipping his toes in the Mediterranean.
Yes, I was. I was dipping my toes in the Aegean Sea and fighting off beggars and watching the Euros sink like a stone into the Aegean, and
So that's what happened. What did you say? What did you say to them?
I said,
Hope and change! Hope and change! Oh, my God. No, nuts.
No, Crete was great. We went up, we saw Knossos Palace, you know, the home of the Minotaur. You remember the Minotaur.
I got one in my basement.
You do?
Next to my guns.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised about that. A Minotaur is a perfect pet for a Republican after all. It's incredibly dangerous, and it's half man and half bull.
Hey,
so.
Hey, speaking of Cretans, how about that Democrat, Anthony Weiner?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the big news this week was that the Democratic Party took its wiener out. You know, I can't believe it. I have to be in Greece, overseas, for God's sake, during the stupidest political scandal, and we have to skip last week in the middle of all this, and, you know, Jay Leno and David Letterman and Conan O'Brien have been running away with the wiener jokes, and we get nothing here on MWMB.
If he were French, he could have been run for president now.
Thank heavens for smartphones.
Oh, wow, we just hit 4 weeks with the French jokes. So yes, the Democrat Party. Yes, the party of change.
Well, speaking of the French jokes,
hey, didn't Nancy Pelosi say she was going to clean that swamp or drain that swamp?
Yeah. Well, that's
elect some swamp people, or I don't. What did she say about that?
Well, we certainly got some kind of swamp person. Anyway, just for the record, so that we've covered it, here is Anthony Weiner's announcement that he made earlier today.
I'm here today to again apologize for the personal mistakes I have made and the embarrassment I have caused. I make this apology to my neighbors and my constituents, but I make it particularly to my wife, Huma.
Huma happens to be very pissed right now.
I had hoped to be able to continue the work that the citizens of my district elected me to do, to fight for the middle class and those struggling to make it. Unfortunately, the distraction that I have created has made that impossible. So today I am announcing my resignation from Congress.
Yeah! Bye-bye, pervert!
So my colleagues can get back to work, my neighbors can choose a new representative, and most importantly, that my wife and I can continue to heal from the damage I have caused. What is that in the
background? The people demand to know. What, they want to see the other photos? What?
My favorite was, bye-bye, pervert!
I'm sorry, you know, while you were in Crete, every night we had to see Wiener's Wong. You know, God forbid if that was a Republican.
Oh, come on. Just last year we had to sit through Governor Sanford, who ran off at state expense to see his mistress in Brazil.
He took a hike. Wait a minute. Should we run down the list of politicians? Well, I can't even spell Lewinsky. I never knew the woman.
Oh, good grief. You're going to dredge that up again? I mean, you know, if you want to play that game, we can go all the way back to Republican Warren G. Harding. The only president I know who was unequivocally faithful to his wife was Richard M. Nixon. So what does that tell you? It's just the way it is.
It's great media, Alex. Just wonderful media. No matter who it is, you can't make this stuff up.
Well, that's certainly true. Well, it's time for the weekly song from Geoff from Cabbage Patch, Florida. In all fairness, Geoff got his submission in early this week before Weiner withdrew. Anyway, here it is.
Congressman Weiner's got the world a Twitter. He's still with us 'cause he's no quitter. Senator Venator to hire a prostitute. Still with us 'cause he's resolute. MWMB, we can't make this up, you see. MWMB, if we can't fight them, we'll never stay free.
Only on MWMP. Well, I'm glad Geoff didn't say something like, if we didn't flash it, we'll never be free.
You know, I never thought I'd agree with George W. Bush, but in the case of Weiner, there is such a thing as too much freedom. Oh, God. Bye-bye, pervert. Anyway, that's the end of that. You know, oddly enough, Weiner was not our topic of discussion this week.
But it's just too good to pass up.
Oh, no. How can you, it's like I want to say everything like I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Hey, you're all weak.
Yeah, I don't dance, folks. That's it. Now, Jim wanted to touch on this story. The Rutland Herald in Vermont reported last week that the class valedictorian of Fairhaven High School said that he was not allowed to deliver half of his speech because he was not able to publicly thank God for his academic success as he wished to do. The student said that the law and not the school was to blame. So we're going to talk about that this week, and I guess that casts me in the role of godless liberal.
No, come on, Alex. I didn't say godless liberal.
Here it comes.
You just like God in his place. Somewhere else.
In the back of the big blue Baptist bus.
All right, here's my thing, Alice. First of all, he's the class valedictorian, and he's supposed to give a speech, a personal speech. These kids that give these speeches, they don't talk school policy. They're not representatives of the school district. They represent themselves. It's a real infringement to say, well, you can't talk about God under this whole separation of church and state. Everybody uses this term, yet nobody understands what it really means. It was a term coined in 1947 for a different court case altogether. It's not what the founding thought. They never said this. But yet that's the hocus pocus that's put out there to avoid talking about God. But, wait, let me finish. Then you can defend you godless liberals. In a different high school on the same day, the guest speaker, the commencement speaker, in an audience of from 2-year-olds to grandmothers and all the graduating class, starts talking about penises and vaginas and how drugs will affect you. You know, your efficiency and how a penis is a vagina on steroids. This is okay, but God's not. I mean, that's where I think we've lost all sight. Oh, your turn.
I agree with you that some common sense needs to be used on these things. I think that the speech you're talking about this other kid talking about woohoos and penises and stuff, that's just reprehensible. I will point out, however, that the phrase a wall of separation between church and state does go back to Thomas Jefferson, who used it in a letter. So even though it doesn't appear word for word in the Constitution, I think we are pretty safe to say that that is something the founders had firmly in mind.
Well, and I know, but the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Yeah, we agree with that. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I think that's been lost. You know, yeah, you're allowed to, my God, in America we have more religions and Ben and Jerry's has ice cream. But, if you want to talk about it, everybody goes, "Ooh, not in government buildings, not in school."
I guess my point would be that it's very important that Christians remember that they're in a vast majority in this country. And so if they're all exercising their religion, then it makes the 1 or 2 Jewish kids in these communities, or the 1 or 2 Muslim kids, or the 1 or 2 Indian kids feel like outcasts. Everybody else is expressing their Judeo-Christian religion, and these kids are forced off to the sidelines. I think school should be a place where they're free from that, where they're not made to feel strange, odd, or different because they are happen to have a different religion. I mean, that's their free exercise of religion. And we can drown that out as the majority, as Christians. We can drown that out simply by our sheer numbers. So we have to be careful.
Would you like to hear the subversive speech? Here's a good thing. It says, ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
I thank God for everything he has done for me and the strength he has given me to resist the urge to defy the command the school has given me, which the command was don't say anything about God. And thank you for coming tonight. This is subversive speech. I wouldn't be standing here before you today without the blessings of God has given me through my tough situations. He's the reason I'm the man I am today. And that's, how can people stand to hear this?
Jim, in and of itself, you're absolutely right. There is nothing wrong with that particular speech. My point is that it is the beginning of a slippery slope. This year, it's a nice little speech about God, but next year, it's an impassioned plea. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? 80% of the audience feels very good about that, and the 20 or 10% that don't happen to be Christians are suddenly finding themselves a religious minority at what's supposed to be a harmless civil ceremony of graduation. That's tyranny of the majority. It's the most dangerous kind of tyranny of all. And the Founding Fathers, whether they said anything or not about separation of church and state, they said a lot about the dangers of tyranny of the majority. It's all throughout the Federalist Papers, which they wrote to justify the Constitution. So, we have to cling to our artificial laws. They are a little different from the will of the community, but we have to cling to them. They're very necessary to maintain our freedom. Everybody's freedom.
I'm sorry, but the other guy talking about sex, I guess that's okay, but God's not. If he had said God gave me a penis, he probably would have been shuffled off the stage.
Just because I disagree with you on the Fairhaven case about God, I'm not going to be trapped into defending this other kid. I think that speech was reprehensible. I think he violated certain mores of...
You mean like community values?
Right. This is a circular argument. We're not going to get out of this easily. I've said my piece, so I'm going to have to back off. I guess what it really comes down to for me is a certain amount of common sense when applying these things, for sure. But
all right, I agree with you right there. Thank you for agreeing.
And thank you for agreeing. What's scary, though, is that we both say common sense, but the one thing we can't mutually seem to do is...
establish what common sense is.
We can use those words and say, yes, I agree with you, but we have not figured out where common sense is, where the common line is. And
then I present you with the Bob Hope Democratic Zombie Award.
Yes, thank you very much. Oh, you mean Democrats? Yeah, I know that one. It's the only funny joke a Republican ever came up with. Anyway, there we have it. That constitutes this week's show.
Well, let's see which congressman tweets us with his
God,
Twitter.
I hope it's a Republican. All right, folks, that does it for us this week. We will see you again here on MWMB. See you next week, Jim.
You live here? Yes. Well, maybe you know what a zombie is. A zombie has no will of his own. You see them sometimes, walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring. You mean like Democrats?